Hi folks, hope you're okay. You like my hat? American hat. I am in Amsterdam airport, as you can see. Uh, it's quite quiet. It's been a 6 hours flight, and I'm just waiting to get my flight to UK, which will be in the afternoon. I've arrived early in the morning here. I've got to wait a few hours till the afternoon to get my flight. So I bought myself some notepads and a pen, a few pens, and I'm going to make some notes on for Speaker's Corner next week. Been reading a book on the plane by a chap called Pope. He was a Methodist scholar in the 19th century, and he specialised in what can you say, translating German skepticism. He wasn't a skeptic; he was a believer. And so he wrote his systematic theology, and he wrote other books, having a full understanding of skeptical theology. So he was able to answer them. So he's not reformed, but he was a great Methodist scholar, and he loved the Lord. He loved the Word of God. So I was reading his book on the plane concerning the deity of Christ. So I want to make some notes. So I bought myself a few notepads. I also read. I watched Nazim debate Orthodox Shada the other day. I actually watched that debate twice and made notes. And Nazim was using an argument called divine identity, and Nazim's argument was that um, that sometimes the language of a person is divine, but it doesn't necessarily mean they are God. So, for example, he used the argument like it will say Moses spoke, but then God spoke. So we call that divine identity, and that's what scholars call it, divine identity. That somebody speaks. Sorry, I'm in the airport. Somebody speaks on behalf of God, and there is divine language. But and it was quoting a book by James Dunn on Christology, and when I was at seminary, I had that work. I didn't like the work. I didn't think it was very good. But anyhow, Nazim, um, this Muslim apologist who goes to Speaker's Corner, he's a nice chap. He said how he liked how he liked. Sorry, I'm just a bit tired. How he liked James Dunn, and his book on Christology. And that is behind Nazim's argument for divine identity. So I pulled up while I was waiting to get on the plane. I pulled up an article and I was reading it about James Dunn, and James Dunn gave an interview. And in his interview, he said he didn't believe that Christ was pre-existent, and one of the words that he said in his interview that it's not possible. And as I was reading his interview, it really hit home to me, and all my training in seminaries and academic training in theology kicked in, and I remembered a lot of stuff from undergraduate days and stuff. And it made me realise that what James Dunn was doing and what Nazim is doing, copying James Dunn, is they're using a kind of pragmatism, a kind of pragmatic approach, or a functionalist approach to reading texts. What do I mean by that? Well, prior to the Enlightenment, you've got to understand philosophy here. Prior to the Enlightenment, people believed that, you know, that God had a being, and that we could know God, that God could break into time, and we could know the essence of God, or the being of God. And you can call the being, you can call that ontology. Okay, so being is ontology. So prior to the Enlightenment, people believed that you can know ontology, or the essence of things, especially the essence of God, or the being of God. But after the Enlightenment, you had a guy called Immanuel Kant, and he was saying that we can't know anything in the noumenal world, in the kind of spiritual realm. In the physical world, the nominal world, we can. And so he made a wedge between that which we can know spiritually, and that which we can know physically. And he was saying we can't know anything in that upper realm. So what that meant is, when biblical scholarship after Immanuel Kant comes along, they're not looking for ontology. In other words, they're not looking for the essence of things. They're just looking for the function. And so what that means is, when theologians are looking at text, they could never ever see Jesus as God incarnate, because they're not able to compute, because of Immanuel Kant, that there is the noumenal as well as the phenomenal world. In other words, that the essence of God in transcendence can break into time and to speak to us, and also communicate his essence through his person. And so what scholars will tend to do then is, because they don't see that God can break into time with his essence, revealing it through persons, because of Immanuel Kant, they just look at text functionally. So you have ontology, being here, and you have function here. And before Immanuel Kant, they were entwined. The function of God was equated with the essence and person of God, of the ontology of God. And so after Kant, there was a wedge broke. So you have the essence, person of God, and then you had functions, and you can't know anything in the noumenal world, spiritual world, and you can't know anything about the essence or person of God. And so when James Dunn is looking at text, by definition, he cannot see ontology, he cannot see being. He can only look at text as function. And so Nazim has caught this virus, this academic virus, thinking he's exegeting text, when actually he's using a kind of pragmatic, functionalist way of looking at text. But if you read in John chapter 1, verse 1, I'm sorry for all this academic stuff, but it can be helpful sometimes. If you read John chapter 1, verse 1, it says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." Okay? So don't worry, I'm going to be teaching more simple stuff tomorrow. In the next few days, it's going to be more simple stuff, So don't worry, this is a bit heavy. This is more for apologies and doing apologetics. But it says, look, in the beginning was the Word, ontology, being. And the Word was with God, ontology, being. And the Word was God, ontology, being, right? So we've got a classical statement here about the ontology of the divine essence, that there are two persons here in the divine essence. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Being, you see, ontology there. It's not function. There's nothing about function here. Nothing about a divine messenger. No, this is ontology. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Ontology, being. Okay? And then if you look at verse 14, and the Word, ontology, was made flesh, ontology. and dwelt among us. Function. So that's function. But that dwelt among us with function, that word dwelt has also an ontological understanding, because the word dwelt is the idea of tabernacle, the idea of the ontology or being or presence of God within the tabernacle, and that's the language being used there. So all manuscripts in John have "in the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God." There is no difference in all the ancient manuscripts of Matthew on John. There might be little differences in very minutiae, but generally speaking, there's no major difference in the manuscripts of John concerning John chapter 1 verse 1. So that's just a little lesson. So that what am I saying? When a Muslim says, "Oh, Jesus is not God," because just because there are these divine persons mentioned, even Moses was mentioned as divine, even David was mentioned as divine, the angels were mentioned as divine. They were just messengers. And because they were messengers of God, it was as if God was speaking. And so they're not saying that, the Bible's not saying they're literally God. It's divine agency. This is the argument. What's happening there? What we're seeing here is they're living under the shadow of Kant. They've got this idea from scholars like James Dunn, who are living under the shadow of Kant, who only see truth in terms of pragmatism or function. They cannot understand truth as in terms of ontology or being and the transcendent beyond time, coming into time, the immanence and the transcendence of God has been cut off because of Immanuel Kant. And so they can't interact or even begin to understand the idea of being, ontology, in the reading of text. And here we see ontology, we see being. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. So one of the main lessons that you need to learn in these things is knowing about the history of academic theology, knowing about academic theologians will help you as an apologist to deal with people like Nazim and many others at Speaker's Corner. So I hope that's been an interest to you. This is something for mainly apologists to grasp hold of. So I'm going to be waiting here. I'm just drinking some water. I've just eaten a little bit of fruit. We have a special time with the family and the community. We're all meeting to remember my mum on Saturday afternoon. So I'll do a bit of evangelism Saturday morning up to dinner time, and then late afternoon we're having I'll be going late afternoon because I'm not into these kind of things. I'll be going late afternoon. I'll stay till evening to support my dad. So that's on Saturday, and so I'm looking forward to being with my dad. My dad's found it very, very hard apparently, missing my mum, and I'll be looking forward to seeing my brother, my two sisters, and family really. And I really need to see them and to be with them. I was on the plane. I was crying. I can't hold it in a little bit. I was crying. I was just thinking about my mum coming nearer to UK. I'm going to be coming to my country, UK, and my mum's not going to be there. That really hits home to me now, and it's going to hit home. It's going to hit home to me when I see my dad and my mum's not there in the house. Dorcas yesterday had a touch of malaria. There's someone at the house looking after her, so she's okay. she'll be joining a family soon as well, and the family will be supporting her as well. So keep her in prayers. Nothing else to report. I'm just doing studies. I'm going to do a bit of prayer in a minute and then do some study. And we're going to Speaker's Corner on the 1st of October. If anybody wants to join us, we'll be down there. We'll be getting into London about 6 in the morning. So if anybody wants to meet up for studies, if you want to do any training in apologetics, let us know. We can do some training before we go into Speaker's Corner. I can give you some talks because we get in about 6 o'clock. So if you want some training in apologetics, we get in to London 6 o'clock in the morning on 1st of October. And we'll be also staying quite late, so if you want to go out for a meal, have a chat, do some apologetic studies afterwards, after Speaker's Corner, let us know. We can do that. I want to make the most of it, so any group people that want to meet to and give you some training in theology and apologetics. And that's it really. Nothing else to report. It's just been a long journey, and I was quite emotional on the plane. So I'm going to go. Love to everybody out there, and God bless you. I love Amsterdam. I love Holland. The Dutch. I love the Dutch. They're very dry. They have a very dry sense of humour. But I do love the Dutch people. And it's nice to be here in Amsterdam. So to Abel, my dear brother Abel and Pamela, and to Frank, and to all the Dutch brothers and sisters that have helped us. There's been a number of Dutch people that have been praying for us and supported us. So for those who sent us books, give us Bibles, have been amazing. So love to you all, and God bless you. Everybody around the world, wherever you are, God bless you. To a dear brother in Saudi Arabia who supports us, God bless you, brother. To the lady who buys us all the Bibles, God bless you. I won't mention your names because you might want to have your privacy. God bless you. To all the people that support us in prayer and finances, we appreciate it. And yeah, so I'll catch you in the next day or two. When I get home today, I'm just going to chill out, and then I'm going to just see my dad tomorrow. And yeah. Okay, God bless you. Love to everybody out there. Jason reporting from Amsterdam. And all the other supporters that I know the people that support us don't like us mentioning their names. But we appreciate everything. I couldn't have come on the flight today if it weren't for a brother that supported that. There's a brother that's helped Dorcas today, sent her a little bit of money to help her yesterday. God's good. God's good. So I'm looking forward to spending time in prayer, spending time some studies, spending time with family, and spending some time with some old friends, dear friends. So God bless you. Take care. God bless.